The big white building floated in space like a giant pearl. It was called the Galactic Council Station, and it was the most important place in the known universe. Here, all the smart alien races came to talk and make peace. The station was so clean and bright that it hurt to look at sometimes. Ambassador Veltar walked back and forth in the main waiting area. His blue skin was getting darker, which meant he was worried. His forearms moved in nervous patterns while he checked his watch for the 10th time in 5 minutes. "Sir, they should be here soon," said his helper, a small green creature with big eyes. "The Earthship landed 20 minutes ago." Veltar stopped walking and looked at the empty hallway. For 3 whole years, the Council had sent messages to the small blue planet called Earth. The messages were very polite. They asked the humans to join the Grand Assembly of Civilized Worlds. They wanted Earth to be part of the galaxy's big family. But Earth never answered back, not once. "Maybe they don't know how to read our language," said another alien nearby. This one looked like a walking tree with golden leaves. "Or maybe they are too scared to come." "No," Veltar shook his head. "They answered, just not with words. They sent a ship." The other aliens in the waiting area turned to look. There were many different kinds, some with scales, some with fur, some made of crystal that caught the light. All of them were curious about these humans that nobody had ever seen before. "What kind of beings do you think they are?" asked a purple alien with 6 legs. "Are they big and strong like the Korthok warriors? Maybe they are small and smart." "Like us," said a tiny floating creature that glowed soft blue. Veltar did not answer. He had seen the Earth ship when it arrived. It was not like other ships. Most alien ships were built to show power or beauty. The Earth ship was simple and black. It looked like it was built for one thing only, to get where it needed to go without anyone stopping it. The doors at the end of the hallway made a soft sound. Everyone turned to look. The doors opened slowly, and white light came from behind them. 3 figures walked out. The first thing everyone noticed was how they moved. They did not hurry, but they did not go slow either. Each step was perfect. They walked like hunters who knew exactly where their food was hiding. The second thing was their clothes. All 3 humans wore black suits. The suits fit them perfectly. Their shirts were white and clean. Their ties were straight. Their shoes were shiny. They looked like they were going to a very important meeting. Not like they had just traveled across space for months. The alien in front was tall with dark hair. His name was Kang Day, though none of the aliens knew this yet. His eyes were dark too, and they looked at everything. Not in a scared way, but like he was making notes about what he saw. Behind him walked 2 others. Li Bin was shorter but built like a fighter. His suit jacket was buttoned perfectly. When he moved his hands, the aliens could see his fingers were long and strong. Park Yule was the 3rd human. He smiled, but the smile did not reach his eyes. He carried a small black bag in one hand. Nobody could guess what was inside. "Welcome to the Galactic Council Station," Veltar said. His voice shook a little. "I am Ambassador Veltar. We have been waiting for you." Kongday stopped in front of him. Up close, Veltar could see that the human suit was made of very expensive cloth. The kind that cost more money than most planets made in a year. "We received your messages," Day said. His voice was quiet, but clear. Every alien in the room could hear him perfectly. All of them. "Ah, good." Veltar felt better. "We were worried that maybe our language was wrong, or your language was fine," Li Ben said. He did not sound angry, but something in his voice made all the aliens step back a little. "We chose not to answer." This was confusing. The purple alien with 6 legs moved closer, but why? "We only wanted to be friends." Park Yule's smile got bigger. "On Earth, we have a saying. We do not make friends. We make allies or enemies. There is no middle." The aliens looked at each other. This was not how first meetings usually went. Most new races were excited to join the council. They brought gifts and made long speeches about peace and friendship. "Perhaps we should go to the meeting room," Veltar said quickly. "The other council members are waiting to meet you." "Of course," Day said. He straightened his tie. The movement was small, but every alien watching felt like a big animal had just shown its teeth. We would not want to keep them waiting. As they walked through the station, other aliens stopped to stare. The humans moved through the crowds like sharks swimming through schools of fish. They did not push or shove, but somehow, everyone moved out of their way. "Tell me," they said as they walked, "how many races are in your council?" 1,437. Veltar answered proudly. "We have peace treaties with all of them." "Impressive," Lieben said. "And how many wars have you stopped?" "Wars?" Veltar looked confused. "We do not have wars anymore. We talk about our problems instead." The three humans looked at each other. Something passed between them that the aliens could not understand. "Talking is good," Park Yul said. "But what happens when talking does not work?" Veltar did not know how to answer that. In his long life, talking had always worked. Sometimes, it took time, but in the end, everyone always agreed to be peaceful. They reached the big doors of the council chamber. Behind those doors, representatives from hundreds of alien races waited to meet Earth's first ambassadors. Day stopped and turned to Veltar. "Before we go in, you should know something about humans." "What is that?" "We are not diplomats," Day said quietly. "We do not like long meetings or fancy words. We believe in simple solutions." "What kind of solutions?" Veltar asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know. Lieben smiled for the first time since arriving. It was not a nice smile. "The permanent kind," he said. The doors opened with a soft sound, and the three humans walked inside. Behind them, Veltar stood frozen in the hallway, finally understanding that Earth had not sent ambassadors at all. They had sent something much more dangerous, and they had dressed it in their finest clothes. The Grand Assembly Chamber was huge. It was round like a bowl, with seats going up and up in circles. Each seat was made for a different kind of alien body. Some were big for giant creatures, some were small for tiny ones. Some even floated in the air for aliens that could fly. In the center of it all was a speaking platform. This was where important aliens stood to talk to everyone else. The platform was made of white stone that glowed softly. Today, every seat was full. News had traveled fast through the station. Earth had finally sent someone. All the alien races wanted to see what humans looked like. The three humans walked into the chamber together. Every conversation stopped. 1,000 alien eyes turned. To watch them, the humans did not seem to care. They walked to their assigned seats, like they owned the place. Their seats were in the front row, right next to the other powerful races. The Korthok Empire sat on one side, big scary aliens with thick skin and sharp teeth. On the other side sat the Veltorian Hivemind, strange aliens, whose heads were too big for their thin bodies. As the humans sat down, two more figures entered the chamber. One was a woman in a long black dress that looked like it cost more than a spaceship. Her name was Han Sol. She moved like a dancer, but her eyes were cold like winter. The other was a man who did not sit down at all. Kim Jun stood at the back of the room, leaning against the wall. His suit jacket was not buttoned. His hands were in his pockets. He looked relaxed, but everyone who saw him felt nervous for some reason. "Welcome, beings of the galaxy," said a loud voice. It came from Council Speaker Thandal, a tall alien with silver skin and no hair. "Today, we gather to welcome our newest members from the planet Earth." Polite clapping filled the chamber. The humans did not clap. They just sat and watched. "Our first matter of business," Thandal continued, "is the ongoing problem with the Korthak Empire. They have moved their armies into the neutral zone. This breaks our peace treaty. Surely we can find a solution through careful discussion and note." The single word cut through the air like a knife. It came from Kim Jun, who still stood at the back of the room. He had not raised his voice, but somehow everyone heard him clearly. The chamber went quiet. You could have heard a pin drop. "I am sorry," Thandal said, his voice shaking slightly. "Did someone speak?" Kong Day stood up slowly. He buttoned his suit jacket with care. Every movement was perfect and calm. "My friend was very clear," Day said. His voice was quiet, but it carried to every corner of the huge room. The answer is no. No to what? Asked War Chief Gorlax of the Korthak Empire. He was huge, even sitting down. His voice was like rocks falling down a mountain. No to your armies in the neutral zone, Day replied. No to your expansion, no to your threats. The Korthok section exploded with angry roars. The big aliens stood up, showing their claws and teeth. Their translator boxes screamed insults in a dozen languages. Other alien races started shouting too. Some agreed with the Korthok. Others did not. Within seconds, the peaceful chamber turned into chaos. Through it all, the 5 humans stayed perfectly. Comday sat back down and straightened his tie. Li Bin cleaned his fingernails. Park Yul looked at his watch, like he was bored. Han Sol stood up from her seat. She did not shout or wave her arms. She just stood there in her beautiful dress, waiting. Slowly. The shouting died down. There was something about the way she stood that made everyone want to listen. You are all very loud, she said, in a soft voice. On Earth, we have learned that the loudest creature in the room is usually the most scared. More angry shouts came from different parts of the chamber. A crystal alien threw something that broke on the floor. A furry alien with 4 arms shook. All his fists at once. Han Sol smiled. It was not a happy smile. You think our clothes make us weak, she said, still speaking softly. You think because we dress nicely, we are soft. This is your first mistake. What is our second mistake? Asked a sarcastic voice. It came from High Thinker Zix of the Academic Assembly, a race that was very proud of being smart. Li Bin answered without looking up from his nails. Thinking there will be a second mistake, the chamber went quiet again, but this time it was different. This time, the quiet felt dangerous. Thandal tried to take control again. Perhaps we should take a break, and no breaks needed, Park Yul said. He opened his small black bag and took out a tablet. The screen glowed blue in the dim light. We have information for everyone. He touched the screen a few times. Suddenly, holographic displays appeared all around the chamber. Each display showed detailed pictures of different alien military bases, weapons, and secret locations. The aliens gasped. These were top-secret places. No outsiders should know about them. How did you get this information? Demanded General Klax of the Reptilian Alliance. We asked nicely, Kim Jong said from the back of the room. His voice was full of fake politeness. Park Yul kept touching his tablet. More displays appeared. These ones showed alien leaders in their private homes. Some were with their families. Some were alone. All of them looked like the pictures had been taken without permission. This is illegal, shouted someone. Is it? Day asked. He stood up again and walked to the speaking platform. Nobody tried to stop him. We checked your laws very carefully. There is nothing that says humans cannot take pictures. You spied on us. We observed, Day corrected. There is a difference. He reached the center of the platform and turned to face the entire chamber. In his perfect black suit, under the bright lights, he looked like the most dangerous thing in the room. For 3 years, you sent us messages, he said. You wanted us to join your peaceful galaxy, so we watched, we studied, we learned about each of you. The holographic displays changed again. Now they showed battle plans, trade routes, and secret alliance agreements between different alien races. What we learned, Day continued, is that your peace is built on fear. You all have big armies. You all have secret weapons. You all make deals behind each other's backs. But you are too scared to fight, so you call it peace. That is not true, Thandal protested. Han Sol laughed. It was not a nice sound. The Korthok have been planning to invade 3 different systems for 6 months. The Veltorians are building a mind control weapon. The Crystal Collective is poisoning trade routes to hurt their competitors. Each accusation was true. The aliens knew it was true because they were doing these things, but none of them knew that anyone else knew. How? Whispered High Thinker Zix. We told you, Li Bin said. We asked nicely. Kim Jong pushed himself off the wall and walked down toward the speaking platform. Every step was casual, but every alien in his path moved away quickly. "Here is what will happen," he said as he walked. "The Korthok will remove their armies from the neutral zone by tomorrow. All secret weapons projects will stop. All hidden military deals will be made public. And if we refuse..." Warchief Gorlax growled. Kimjin reached the bottom of the chamber and stopped. He looked up at the thousands of aliens staring down at him. His hands were still in his pockets. His suit was still not buttoned properly. "Then we will stop asking," nicely said. The chamber was so quiet you could hear the air recycling systems humming. Day adjusted his cufflinks and smiled. "Earth has decided to join your peaceful galaxy. We are here to help you keep the peace." "How?" Thandal asked weakly. "By making sure," Han Sol said, smoothing down her dress, "that everyone understands the cost of breaking it." The holographic displays disappeared. The 5 humans began walking toward the exit, their formal shoes clicking on the hard floor. "Wait," called an alien voice. "What gives you the right?" All 5 humans stopped and turned around. For the first time since entering the chamber, they all smiled at the same time. "Simple," Day said. "We are the only ones here who are not afraid." They walked out, leaving behind a chamber full of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and for the first time in centuries, those powerful beings realized they were not the most dangerous things in the room anymore. 3 days passed after the meeting in the Grand Assembly. The galaxy was buzzing with news about the strange humans from Earth. Some aliens were scared, others were angry. Most were confused. Warchief Gorlax of the Korthak Empire was very angry. For 40 years Gorlax had ruled his people through strength. He was 3 meters tall and weighed as much as a small spaceship. His skin was thick like armor, and his claws could cut through steel. He had conquered 17 star systems by crushing anyone who stood in his way. Nobody had ever told him no before. "These humans think they can threaten me," Gorlax roared in his private war room. His voice shook the metal walls. "I have fought creatures bigger than mountains. I have destroyed entire armies with my bare hands." His advisors nodded quickly. They were scared to disagree with their leader. "Send a message to Earth," Gorlax commanded. "Tell them I want to meet. Tell them to send their strongest warrior to face me." The message was sent. The reply came back in less than an hour. It was very short. "Harmony Point Station, Dock 7. Tomorrow at noon. Come alone if you are brave enough." Earth Gorlax laughed, so hard that windows cracked. "Alone? They want me to come alone. Perfect. I will show these soft humans what real strength looks like." But Gorlax was not stupid. He brought 30 of his best warriors with him to Harmony Point. These were not regular soldiers. They were the elite guard, Korthok, who had never lost a battle. Each one was 2.5 meters tall and trained from birth to kill. Harmony Point was a neutral station where different races met for trade and talks. It was built like a giant wheel spinning in space. The central area was a big open plaza with shops and restaurants around the edges. When Gorlax and his warriors arrived, the plaza was almost empty. Word had spread that the Korthok were coming to fight. Smart aliens had found other places to be. Only one figure waited in the center of the plaza. Li Bin stood perfectly still under the bright lights. He wore the same black suit as before, but today he had added something new, a single white flower pinned to his jacket. His hands were empty. He carried no weapons that anyone could see. "Where are your warriors, human?" Gorlax demanded, as he stomped across the plaza. His 30 guards spread out around him in a circle. "Where are your guns and armor?" Li Bin did not move. He looked very small next to the giant aliens surrounding him. "I am the warrior," Bin replied calmly, "and I do not need guns." Gorlax stopped walking. He stared down at the human, who barely came up to his chest. You were their champion." Gorlax started laughing again. "You look like you should be serving drinks at a fancy party." "On Earth," Bin said, adjusting his tie with one hand, "we have a saying. The best-dressed predator gets the closest to its prey." One of the Korthok guards stepped forward. His name was Sergeant Krull, and he had killed over 100 enemies in battle. "Chief, let me squash this insect," Krull growled. "It will take 5 seconds. "No," Gorlak said, still grinning. "I want to do this myself. I want the galaxy to see what happens when someone challenges the Korthok Empire." Li Bin finally moved. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small device. It looked like a watch, but the screen was glowing. "Before we begin," Bin said politely, "I should tell you that this meeting is being broadcast live to every major news station in the galaxy." "Good," Gorlax roared. "Let them all watch me tear you apart." Bin pressed a button on his device. Around the plaza, holographic cameras appeared and started recording. "Excellent," Bin said. He put the device away and straightened his jacket. "Shall we begin?" What happened next lasted exactly 4 minutes and 17 seconds. Gorlax charged. First, he moved fast for such a big creature, his claws aimed at the human's throat. But when he reached the spot where Bin had been standing, the human was not there anymore. Bin had moved to the left so quickly that several of the watching cameras could not follow him. As Gorlax stumbled past, Ben reached out with one finger and touched a spot on the alien's neck. Gorlax crashed to the ground, his entire left side suddenly numb. "Pressure points," Ben explained to the cameras, as if he was teaching a class. "Every species has them, you just need to know where to look." The Korthok guards attacked all at once. 30 elite warriors rushed toward one human in a business suit. Li Bin moved like water. He flowed between the charging aliens, never quite where their claws expected him to be. Each time he passed one of them, something happened. A knee stopped working, an arm went limp. Sometimes a warrior would just fall down and not get up. Bin never seemed to hit anyone very hard. His movements looked almost gentle, but every touch was perfectly placed. Every step was exactly where it needed to be. The human nervous system, Ben continued talking to the cameras while dodging a massive fist, is actually quite similar to most alien systems. The main difference is speed. He ducked under a swinging claw and tapped his attacker on the wrist. The warrior's hand opened and his weapon fell to the floor. "Humans evolved as persistence hunters," Ben went on, stepping sideways as 3 guards crashed into each other. "We do not give up. We do not get tired. We just keep going until our prey stops running." He touched another pressure point, and a 2-meter tall warrior toppled over like a cut tree dot. By the end of the 4th minute, all 30 Korthok guards were on the ground. Some were unconscious, others could not move. A few were trying to crawl away, but their legs would not work. Gorlax himself was on his knees in the center of the plaza. One of his own ceremonial knives was pressed gently against his throat. The blade was held by hands that had moved too fast for his enhanced reflexes to follow. "How?" Gorlax whispered. His voice was full of shock and fear. "Practice," Bin replied. He was not even breathing hard. His suit was still perfect. The white flower on his jacket had not moved. "Lots and lots of practice." "But you are so small," Gorlax said. "So weak-looking on my planet," Bin said conversationally. "The deadliest creatures often look harmless. We have spiders smaller than your fingernail that can kill you in minutes. We have fish that look pretty but are full of poison. We have learned that in nature, the most dangerous predator is often the one that does not look dangerous at all." The knife pressed a little closer to Gorlax's throat. "Now," Bin said in the same polite voice, "about the neutral zone. What are your thoughts?" "We will withdraw," Gorlax said quickly. "All our ships, all our soldiers." "Today, excellent choice," Ben said. He moved the knife away and stood up. With careful movements, he straightened his tie and brushed a tiny bit of dust from his sleeve. "This meeting is concluded," he announced to the cameras. "The Korthok Empire has agreed to respect the Neutral Zone Treaty. All disputes have been resolved peacefully." As the cameras turned off, Gorlax struggled to stand. His legs were shaking. "What are you?" he asked. Li Bin smiled. For the first time since the fight began, his expression was not polite. "We are what happens when a species of persistence hunters decides to get civilized," he said. We learned to hunt with our minds instead of our teeth. We learned to kill with pressure points instead of claws. But we never stopped being hunters. He started walking toward the exit, his polished shoes clicking on the plaza floor. Oh, and Warchief being called over his shoulder. Yes. Tell your friends across the galaxy something for me. Tell them that Earth did not send diplomats. We sent predators who learned how to wear suits. Gorlax watched the human walk away. For the first time in 40 years of conquest, he understood what it felt like to be prey. The withdrawal from the neutral zone began 2 hours later. News of the Harmony Point demonstration spread across the galaxy faster than light speed. Within days, every alien leader had seen the recording. A single human in formal wear had defeated 30 elite Korthok warriors without breaking a sweat or wrinkling his suit. The message was clear. Earth's representatives were not here to talk. They were here to win, and they dressed very, very well while doing it. The news about Harmony Point traveled fast. Within 1 week, every alien race in the galaxy knew what had happened to the Korthok Empire. A single human in a business suit had beaten 30 elite warriors without getting his clothes dirty. Some aliens were scared, others were curious. A few were angry that someone had embarrassed the mighty Korthoks so badly. But everyone wanted to know more about these strange humans from Earth. The Veltorian hive mind was the first to make contact. They were a race of aliens who shared one big brain between all of them. They thought this made them very smart and powerful. Their ships appeared near Earth's embassy station just 2 days after the fight. "We wish to speak with your leaders," their message said. "We have important business to discuss." The humans agreed to meet at the Crystal Gardens, a beautiful space station covered in growing plants from 1,000 different worlds. It was a peaceful place where most aliens came to relax and think. Park Yule arrived alone to meet them. He wore his usual black suit, but today his tie was dark blue with tiny silver stars. He sat at a small table in the center of the gardens, sipping tea from a delicate white cup. Around him, strange alien flowers bloomed in impossible colors. The Veltorians came in a group of 12. Their heads were huge and round, filled with the shared brain that connected them all. Their bodies were thin and weak-looking. They moved together like they were all controlled by invisible strings. Human, they spoke in unison, their voices mixing together into one sound. "We have watched your recent actions. We are impressed by your primitive combat skills." Park Yule did not look up from his tea. "Thank you. That is very kind. But physical strength is not true power," the Veltorians continued. "True power comes from the mind. We wish to show you what real intelligence looks like." "Please, Park," Yole said politely, "show me." The 12 aliens formed a circle around his table. Their huge eyes began to glow with soft purple light. Park Yule could feel something trying to push into his thoughts, like invisible fingers, trying to open his mind and look inside. The Veltorians were trying to take control of his brain. For a moment, Park Yule just sat there, letting them try. He took another sip of tea and watched a nearby flower change from blue to gold in the artificial sunlight. "Interesting technique," he said calmly. "On Earth, we call this telepathy. We have studied it quite a bit." The purple glow around the Veltorians got brighter. They were working harder, trying to force their way into his thoughts. "Your mind is different," they said, sounding confused for the first time. "It does not work the way minds should work." "No," Park Yule agreed, "it does not." Suddenly, the glow around the Veltorians flickered. One of them stumbled backward. Then another. "What is happening?" they asked in panic. Park Yule smiled and put down his teacup. "You wanted to see inside my mind. So I let you in, but you forgot something important." "What?" "On Earth, when you invite a predator into your home, sometimes it decides to stay." The purple glow was completely gone now. Half of the Veltorians were on their knees, holding their huge heads in their thin hands. The other half were backing away from the table. "How?" they whispered. "Human minds are not like yours," Park Yule explained, straightening his tie. "You share one brain between many bodies. We have many thoughts in one brain. When you tried to read my mind, you got lost in all the different paths. And while you were lost, I read yours instead. He stood up and brushed a flower petal off his jacket. Your shared brain has some very interesting secrets, he continued. Plans to control other alien races. Hidden weapons that work on thoughts instead of bodies. Some very unkind opinions about your allies. The Veltorians tried to run, but their legs would not work properly. Their shared brain was still confused from trying to understand human thoughts. Do not worry, Park Yul said kindly. I did not damage anything important. You will feel better in a few hours. But next time you meet a human, perhaps you should shake hands instead of trying to control our minds. He picked up his teacup and walked away, leaving 12 of the galaxy's most powerful psychics sitting helplessly among the pretty flowers. Word spread even faster this time. The Veltorians were known for their mental powers. If humans could defeat them with just thinking, what else could they do? The Crystalline Collective decided to find out. They were beings made of living crystal that could do mathematics faster than any computer. They thought they were smarter than everyone else because they could solve any problem with numbers. They invited Han Solo to visit their home world, a planet covered entirely in geometric crystal structures that reached up to the clouds. Welcome, carbon-based lifeform, their leader said when she arrived. His name was Formula Prime, and he looked like a walking diamond with too many angles. We have brought you here to demonstrate true intelligence. Han Solo stood in their great hall wearing an evening gown that seemed to be made of black liquid starlight. The dress changed color as she moved, showing tiny galaxies spinning in the fabric. Your demonstration will be mathematics, Formula Prime announced. We will give you problems to solve. When you fail, you will understand that humans are inferior to crystal beings. That sounds fun, Han Solo said with a warm smile. What kind of problems? We will start simple, Formula Prime said. He projected a holographic equation into the air. It had thousands of numbers and symbols that hurt to look at. Calculate the exact orbit patterns of 17 different moons around a gas giant that is being pulled by 3 different suns. Han Solo looked at the equation for exactly 3 seconds. The answer is that the system is unstable, she said. All the moons will crash into each other in 2,847 years, give or take a few days. The crystal beings hummed with surprise. Their own computers had taken 3 hours to solve the same problem. Lucky guess, Formula Prime said. Try this one. A new equation appeared. This one was even bigger and more complicated. Calculate the resource production needed to build a space station with exactly 4.7 million rooms, each with different gravity settings, while the station rotates at varying speeds. Han Solo glanced at it. Impossible. You would need more metal than exists in this entire solar system. Also, the rotation would tear the station apart before you finished building it. More surprised humming. The crystal beings had never thought about whether their math problems made sense in the real world. One more, Formula Prime said, sounding less confident. Calculate the precise battle formations needed for a fleet of 10,000 spaceships attacking a defended planet. This time, Han Solo did not even look at the equation. The answer is 0 spaceships, she said calmly. That is not a number. It is the right number, Han Solo replied. If you have 10,000 spaceships, you do not need to fight. You just tell the planet to surrender, and they will. Fighting is what you do when you do not have enough ships. She walked closer to Formula Prime, her dress shifting from black to deep red. You know what your real problem is? She asked. You think being smart means solving hard math. But real intelligence is knowing which problems are worth solving. She reached into her small purse and pulled out a device that looked like a crystal flower. While you were making math puzzles, she said, I was scanning your planet. You're beautiful. Crystal structures are very pretty, but they have 17 critical weak points. If someone wanted to hurt you, they would not need math. They would just need to push in the right places. The device in her hand projected a hologram showing the crystal planet. Red dots marked specific locations all over the surface. These are your weak points, Han Solo explained. Hit any 5 of them, and your entire civilization would crack like glass. The crystal beings stared at the hologram in shock. They had never thought about physical weakness. They only cared about numbers. How did you find these so quickly? Formula Prime asked. Easy, Han Solo said, putting the device away. I looked for the places where you forgot that math has to work. In the real world, she turned to leave, her dress flowing around her like liquid night. Oh, one more thing, she said over her shoulder. On Earth, we have a saying, the smartest person in the room is often the one who knows when not to show off. The crystal beings watched her walk away. For the first time in their long lives, they wondered if being able to do math very fast was the same thing as being intelligent. By now, stories about the humans were being told in every corner of the galaxy. The Korthak had learned about human combat skills. The Veltorians had discovered human mental defenses. The Crystalline Collective had found out about human practical intelligence. But the biggest test was yet to come. The Feast of Concordance happened every 5 years. It was the most important social event in the galaxy. Leaders from every major race came together for a huge dinner party. They wore their finest clothes, ate the best food, and made deals that shaped the future of civilization. This year, all eyes would be on the humans. Everyone wanted to see how Earth's mysterious predators would behave at a fancy dinner party. The feast was held on Luxury Station 1, a massive space station that looked like a floating palace. The main dining hall could hold 10,000 guests. The ceiling was made of transparent aluminum, showing the stars spinning slowly overhead. Chomin arrived fashionably late, wearing a gown that seemed to be cut from midnight itself. The dress was so perfectly black that it seemed to absorb light. She moved through the crowded hall like a shadow made elegant. She was seated at the high table with the most powerful beings in the galaxy. On her right sat Chancellor Vordim of the Academic Assembly, a wise old alien who looked like a walking tree made of silver. On her left was Trade Minister Kalks, round alien with purple skin and too many eyes. Your species fascinates me, Chancellor Vordim said as the first course was served. You dress for war as if you were attending an opera. Chomin cut her food with movements that were too precise, too controlled. Each slice was exactly the same size. Each bite was perfectly timed. On Earth, Chancellor, she replied with a warm smile. We have a saying, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. And what job did you want? Asked Trade Minister Kelks. Kongday looked up from his own meal at the far end of the table. His expression was pleasant, but his eyes were cold. Apex predator of the galaxy, he said calmly. But we thought it would be rude to arrive in casual clothes. The high table went very quiet. Around them, thousands of aliens continued eating and talking, but the most powerful beings in the galaxy had suddenly lost their appetite. Surely you do not mean that literally, Chancellor Vordim said nervously. Do we not? Chomin asked. She dabbed at her lips with a silk napkin. Tell me, Chancellor, what do you think we are here for? Diplomacy, he suggested hopefully. The 5 humans at different tables around the hall all smiled at the same time. It was not a reassuring sight. No, Chomin said softly. We are here to make sure everyone understands the new rules. What new rules? Demanded Trade Minister Kelks. Simple ones, Chomin replied. Be civilized, be polite, be peaceful, and if we refuse. Han Solo's voice came from across the table, where she sat with the military leaders. Then we will teach you better manners. The feast continued, but the mood had changed. For the rest of the evening, every alien leader was very careful to be extra polite to their human guests, because they were finally beginning to understand what Earth had really sent them. Not diplomats, not ambassadors, not representatives. Earth had sent teachers, and the lesson they were teaching was very simple. In this galaxy, there was a new apex predator. And it wore very, very nice clothes. 6 months had passed since the Feast of Concordance. The galaxy had changed in ways that nobody expected. It was quieter now. The war between the Reptilian Alliance and the insect swarms had ended suddenly when both sides received a polite message. From Earth, the message was very short. Please stop fighting, or we will come help you stop. Both armies went home the same day. The trade dispute between the Crystal Collective and the Gas Cloud Federation was solved in one afternoon. Han Sol had arrived wearing a business suit and carrying a briefcase. She sat down with both sides and explained calmly how their argument was hurting everyone. When she was done talking, they signed a peace treaty so fast that the ink was still wet when she left. The Korthak Empire had become the most peaceful race in the galaxy. Warchief Gorlax now sent birthday cards to his former enemies. He also started wearing nicer clothes. Not suits like the humans, but cleaner armor with polished edges. Everyone was being more polite. The Galactic Council had changed to the big white meeting hall was different now. For one thing, it was much quieter during meetings. Nobody shouted anymore. Nobody threw things or made threats. This was mostly because of Kim Jun. He had become the unofficial peacekeeper of the council. He did not have an official title, but everyone knew what he did. When aliens started getting angry during meetings, Kim Jun would stand up from his seat in the back of the room. He did not say anything. He did not have to. Just seeing him stand up was enough to make everyone remember their manners. He still wore the same black suit with the unbuttoned jacket. He still kept his hands in his pockets. But now, when he moved, every alien in the room watched him carefully. The chair recognizes Ambassador Zektex from the Crab Nebula Alliance, said Council Speaker Thandal during a typical meeting. Ambassador Zektex stood up. He looked like a giant red crab with too many eyes. Thank you, Speaker. My people wish to complain about the new shipping routes through our territory. The Gas Cloud Federation is XTX stopped talking. Kim Jun had shifted slightly in his chair. Just slightly. But it was enough. Actually, XTX continued more politely. My people would like to discuss a fair solution that works for everyone. Much better, Kim Jun said quietly from the back of the room. The Gas Cloud representative floated forward. We are happy to negotiate new terms that respect our neighbors. And just like that, a problem that might have caused a war was solved. In 5 minutes, this happened a lot now. Li Bin had become very popular as a mediator for territorial disputes. When two races could not agree on who owned a star system or a planet, they would ask him to decide. Both sides always accepted his answer, even when they did not like it. This was because everyone remembered what happened when people disagreed. With humans, the way I see it, Li Bin would say, sitting in his perfect suit at a polished table, you both have good points. But fighting over this system would cost both of you more than the system is worth. He would then show them numbers. On his tablet, the numbers always proved that war was expensive and stupid. The numbers were always correct. So here is what will happen, he would continue. You will share the system. You will split the profits 50-50. You will take turns using the best mining spots. Everyone wins. And everyone always agreed. Because the alternative was dealing with a human who had grievances to settle. And nobody wanted that. Park Yule had revolutionized trade negotiations across the galaxy. Big companies from different alien races would ask him to help them make deals. He was very good at it. You want to sell crystals, he would tell one side. You want to buy crystals, he would tell the other side. This should be easy, but of course, it was never easy. There were always arguments about price, about quality, about shipping, about 1,000 other things. Here is the problem, Park Yule would say, opening his small black bag and pulling out his tablet. You are both trying to cheat each other. This is stupid. Cheating customers is bad for business. Cheating suppliers is bad for business. Being honest makes more money. He would then show them exactly how much money they would make by being fair. To each other, the math was always perfect. The logic was always clear. Sign here, he would say, placing contracts on the table. Both sides always signed because Park Yule's reputation had spread across the galaxy. When he said a deal was fair, everyone believed him. When he said someone was trying to cheat, everyone avoided them Being recommended by Park Yule was like having the galaxy's best business license. Being refused by him was like being banned from trade forever. Han Sol had taken over galactic security assessments. Her job was to look at different alien civilizations and tell them how to protect themselves better. She was very good at this. "Job, your defense systems are adequate," she would write in her reports. "But you have not thought about social engineering attacks." "What is social engineering?" the aliens would ask. "It is when someone tricks you into giving them what they want, instead of taking it by force," Han Sol would explain. "For example, I could probably take control of your government by convincing your people to elect me as their leader. That is impossible. Our people would never. Would you like me to demonstrate?" Han Sol would ask sweetly. The answer was always no. Her reports were written on expensive paper with Earth's official seal at the top. They were detailed and thorough and absolutely terrifying. They showed exactly how each civilization could be destroyed by someone who understood their weaknesses. "Why do you tell us this?" the alien leaders would ask. "Because now that you know, you can fix the problems," Han Sol would explain. "And because if anyone tries to attack you using these methods, you will know they learned them from reading our reports, which means they are copying us. And we do not like copycats." Every alien civilization in the galaxy now kept Han Sol's security reports in their most protected vaults. The reports were more valuable than treasure and more feared than weapons. But the biggest change in the galaxy was because of Cho Min. Cho Min had become something that had never existed before. The galaxy's first diplomatic executioner. Her job was to solve problems that could not be solved any other way. Most problems never got to Cho Min. The threat of her involvement was usually enough to make people reasonable. But sometimes, very rarely, someone would be too stupid or too stubborn to listen. When that happened, Cho Min would put on her finest dress and pay them a visit. She had visited 3 alien civilizations in the past 6 months. All 3 visits had been very short. All 3 problems had been solved permanently. Nobody talked about what exactly happened during those visits. But afterward, the galaxy had 3 fewer troublesome governments, and 3 more peaceful, reasonable ones. "How do you do it?" a reporter from the Galactic News Network had asked her once. "Trade secrets," Cho Min had replied with her beautiful smile. "But I can tell you this, the key to good diplomacy is making sure everyone understands the consequences of their choices." On Earth, the results of their galactic diplomatic mission were celebrated quietly. Humanity had taken their place among the stars, not through grand speeches or cultural exchange, but by demonstrating that sometimes the most terrifying predator was the one who remembered to say, "Please and thank you." The final report to Earth's government was written by Kong Day. It was short and to the point. Mission accomplished. The galaxy now understands Earth's position. We have established humanity as the apex predator of known space while maintaining proper diplomatic protocols. Recommend continued formal dress code for all future galactic operations. Status of galactic peace. Asked the response from Earth. Stable Day replied. Everyone is being very polite, and they were. Across thousands of star systems, alien races that had fought for centuries were now having tea parties and signing trade agreements. Pirates had become merchants. Warlords had become mayors. Conquest fleets had become exploration missions, not because they had suddenly become good, but because they had learned that in this new galaxy, being impolite had consequences, and those consequences arrived wearing very expensive suits. The galaxy had peace at last. Not the fake peace of fear that had existed before, where everyone was too scared to fight, but still planned wars in secret. This was real peace. The peace that came from knowing that someone was watching. Someone who cared about good manners and proper behavior. Someone who would teach better habits to anyone who forgot their lessons. As Kongday often said in his reports back to Earth, diplomacy is simply war by other means. We chose to excel at both, while maintaining proper dress codes. The galaxy had finally learned what Earth had always known. The most dangerous predator is not the one with the biggest teeth, or the strongest claws. It is the one that knows how to be civilized, and looks absolutely terrifying while doing it.